Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for making the time today to meet with us. If you wanted to join us live, I apologize. We had some technical difficulties. We are live, as you can see, on the scene out in the community today. I feel like a NASCAR driver with these on, but you got to have the communications. Again, I appreciate you making time for me. I know in a law firm that time is literally billable, so every hour matters. So I'm going to make sure that this conversation earns its place on your calendar. Today's not going to be an IT presentation. It's not a fear-based cybersecurity talk. Today we're going to have a leadership conversation about protecting enterprise value inside your firm. Because AI and cybersecurity sit directly in the lane of client trust, confidentiality, regulatory exposure, and long-term firm valuation. Now, if you own, manage, or oversee a law firm, this conversation today is going to affect you directly. Not theoretically, but operationally. So here's what we're going to walk through today. We're going to talk about what's actually happening in the AI, in AI in the legal industry right now. What you truly control as firm leaders, where the biggest opportunities are hiding, what doing absolutely nothing quietly costs you, and how to turn this risk conversation into a growth conversation. Now, at the executive level, this matters for one reason. Technology risk is now enterprise risk, and it affects your firm's reputation. It affects malpractice exposure, it affects client retention, and it affects the long-term value of your firm that you've spent years building. AI is the most disruptive force in the legal industry, and it's one of the most disruptive that we've seen since digital document management. How many people remember that? Now, it's not because it's flashy. It's because it accelerates everything, good and bad. It accelerates legal research. It accelerates contract review. It accelerates discovery. It accelerates document drafting. But unfortunately, it also accelerates cyber attacks. Now, here's why that's important. So law firms run on information. We have client files, evidence, contracts, intellectual property, and financial settlements. When speed increases in a system built entirely around sensitive information, both efficiency and vulnerability increase. If leadership doesn't intentionally govern that speed, then the firm absorbs risk by default. Cyber attacks targeting law firms are rising, and AI is making them easier to execute. So over the past year, we've seen phishing attacks impersonating managing partners. We've seen wire transfer fraud during real estate closings, and we've seen ransomware freeze an entire document management system. In several well-publicized cases, attackers actually accessed information in a confidential merger and acquisition. This was before This was before deals were even announced, and the hackers already had this information. Now, why does that matter to your firm? Well, that's because legal operations are predictable. Closing schedules are predictable, litigation timelines are predictable, billing cycles are predictable, and predictability makes you a target. Criminals prefer environments where the timing of transactions is easy to anticipate. Now, this isn't about panic. It's about understanding incentives and aligning your protection accordingly. So the leadership questions becomes, are you ready? Not tool ready, not do you have the right tools, but do you have the right strategy to manage your business? If document management systems went down tomorrow, do you know what the protocol is? And I'm going to go off on a tiny a side note here. I was having this conversation earlier this week with another business, and we were talking about what happens if the systems go down. There's a very popular show here in the U.S. called The Pit, and one of the storylines of The Pit this season is that all of their systems went down, and how hard that is if all of their systems go down. When I was coming up and computers were just starting, we had protocols if the systems went down to actually conduct business. But a lot of businesses don't have those protocols anymore. So if the system went down tomorrow, be it improperly configured server or something else, would you know what that was? So if your partner receives an email that appears to come from a client requesting a change to a wire instruction, is there a verification process? And if privileged client information is exposed through a vendor, who leads that response? And the why is very simple. Law firms operate on trust and confidentiality. So when confusion happens in a legal environment, it can quickly turn into a liability. Executive clarity shortens chaos. Lack of clarity extends it. So if you store confidential client data, process financial transactions, or transmit legal documents electronically, you, my friend, are on the radar. Law firms do all three. You integrate document management systems, case management platforms, e-discovery tools, accounting software, cloud storage, and external vendors. And here's where many firms are exposed. Most modern breaches originate through third-party vendors. So you may be secure internally, but if an e-discovery platform, a cloud storage provider, or a vendor has very weak controls, you actually inherit that vulnerability. At the executive level, vendor oversight is not an administrative task. It's a risk governance function, and it is something that needs to come from the C-suite. At the same time, if you're not thinking about how to use AI to improve legal operations, competitors already are. Legal firms are using AI to analyze contracts faster, summarize case law instantly, and assist with document review and litigation. Some firms are reducing research time dramatically while increasing attorney productivity. Why does that matter? Because clients notice efficiency. Corporate clients are increasingly asking about technology capabilities when selecting outside counsel. Competitive advantage in legal services is increasingly operational, not just intellectual. Now, doing nothing costs you. And a lot of people think, well, I'm not going to do that because it's going to cost me. But doing nothing costs you as well. Not in just breach scenarios, but in daily friction. Manual document review consumes billable hours. Poor organization slows discovery. Weak governance increases malpractice risk. And ineffective workflows reduce partner profitability. The why is margin protection. In law firms, small inefficiencies compound quickly across cases, matters, and clients. Small security gaps escalate into major liabilities. Leaders protect margin by reducing friction and preventing avoidable disruption. So let's talk about what you actually control. Now, you don't control whether the cyber criminals target law firms this quarter, and you don't control how sophisticated AI-generated phishing attacks have become, and you don't control external threats in the legal industry. But you do control your strategy. You control whether there's a defined AI usage policy in your firm. You control whether access to the client's files is properly governed. You control whether former employees lose system access immediately, and you can control whether financial institutions require verification. Again, this is about accountability. Clients, regulators, and insurers all evaluate whether leadership exercise reasonable oversight. Oversight is defensible. Neglect is not. But you also control how proactive your firm is and who you trust as a cyber and AI strategy partner. Proactive firms reduce dwell time. That's the gap between exposure and detection. And that gap determines whether a cyber incident becomes a contained problem or a public reputational event. At the leadership level, proactive posture signals professionalism and discipline. Now, as I said, this isn't just a technology conversation. It's a business growth conversation. AI can reduce research time, it can accelerate document drafting, and it can assist with contract review. It can also improve internal knowledge management across the firm. Again, it's about competitive positioning. Modern firms signal strength. Organized systems improve attorney profitability and productivity, and efficient operations attract clients at top legal talent. Leverage AI as a strategic advantage. Use it to reduce friction in research, use it to streamline document review, and use it to identify patterns across case data. But pair it with governance, because because speed without control is simply just fast exposure. So how do I turn this into growth? Well, you're going to start with clarity. You're going to conduct an external exposure assessment. You're going to review vendor access and permissions. You're going to map operational friction inside your firm, and then identify where AI can safely improve efficiency. Now, growth rarely comes from dozens of initiatives. It comes from a handful of disciplined decisions executed consistently. When you reduce your exposure and reduce your friction, you stabilize operations and protect your reputation. And reputation builds trust. Trust attacks clients, not attacks clients, excuse me. Trust attracts clients, and clients drive growth. The chain reaction is why today's conversation matters at the managing partner and leadership level. Over the next year, expect continued pressure in vendor-related breaches, AI phishing attacks, credential misuse, and increased scrutiny around data privacy and confidentiality. Governance will be increasingly be seen as leadership competency, not a technical checkbox. So if today's conversation feels irrelevant to your firm, that's okay. Every firm is at a different stage. But if you see even small vulnerabilities or operational friction that could scale, then a strategic conversation might be worth having. So let me close with a direct question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for your firm this year to reduce cyber exposure and improve operational efficiency? If it's below a 7, the timing may not be right. But if it's an 8, 9, or 10, what's preventing that movement? Is it budget, alignment, or clarity? If you chose clarity, let's schedule a profit and growth strategy session. We'll evaluate your exposure, your vendor governance, your AI opportunity, and operational friction, and then you can decide on what you need. As always, you can reach us at citian.group/risk, where you can schedule a risk assessment with me. Be more than happy to go over that with you. Or you can reach me at 904-907-8502. Once again, I appreciate you taking time with me. I realize that time is billable, so I appreciate that you are here. And if you have any further questions, I'd be more than happy to discuss them with you. As always, have a wonderful week and be absolutely kind to each other. Thanks so much. Have a great day.